Welcome to the 707, a weekly half-hour program produced by KRCB, a service of NorCal Public Media. The 707 features voices and stories from your community, stories that tickle your funny bone, and stories that show how we are connected to each other. I'm your host, Michelle Marques, and I'm sitting in the back of a theater at the Schulz Museum and Research Center in Santa Rosa, California. Pittsburgh-based cartoonist Joe Wos is performing for a rapt audience of young children, drawing silly characters as he tells a story. The children laugh at the animals that appear as his pen moves quickly across sheets of paper.
Maybe I can find someone to teach you how to sing. If I could find someone to teach you how to sing, will you please teach the chicken how to dance so the chicken will teach you to crow so that I can be rooster? And the swan said, I will, it's a deal. And so Dawn set out in search of an opera singer. Now,
the antics of the duck who wanted to be a rooster underpin a sweet lesson about thinking outside of the box and following your dreams. But of course, the kids think it's just a goofy story with funny voices and great cartoons. In today's episode of the 707, I sit down on that stage with Joe Wos after the children leave for more fun activities during a camp day for kids at the museum.
I have been visiting the Charles M. Schulz Museum for 23 years now. Since their opening week. I come here, I do performances where I draw stories as I tell them. I do workshops where I teach people how to draw cartoons. I've even done pet caricatures and events for adults like a drink and draw. So I've done a lot of different programming with museum over the years, and it is both the greatest honor of my life because Charles M. Schulz is my hero, and it is my home. It feels very much like being home here.
So tell me about the influence that Charles Schulz, Sparky, had on your life.
Sparky is the reason I became a cartoonist. And you will hear the same story told by thousands of cartoonists worldwide. I, at about 4 years old, encountered Snoopy for the first time and just fell in love. There was something so appealing to it. The simplicity of line, the way he conveyed emotion with just a few simple dots and dashes. It was almost like a secret code, like Morse code, just dot, dot, dash. But the way he used and placed those dots and dashes, he can convey, happiness, sadness, remorse, joy. Just so much conveyed through those lines. And even at that young age, I think everyone was able to read it and see a little bit of themselves in it too. And I just fell in love with it. And I knew from age 4, because of Peanuts, I'm going to be a cartoonist someday.
When you come to the museum and you walk around and see things on the walls, especially like some of his artwork blown up, you can see sort of the waver in the lines. You can see his fingers, his hand in those lines. What does it mean to you to see that sort of what looks on the comic page? You open up the funnies and you see it in one form and then you see it larger. What does that mean to you to see that?
I've always been fascinated by process. It's one of the things I love about art. I love the finished product, but I love so much even more that creative process of where did that idea come from? And how did he know to put that line right there in that spot? So being able to see that process up close, it helped build a stronger connection for me. As I said, it's just my absolute hero, and to feel that strong a connection with someone who I admired so greatly and influenced who I am is just such a wonderful experience. And everything he was, every element of his being is in his art. It's there. If you want to know Sparky, just read Peanuts.
You were just teaching a class and performing for a group of school children. Yes. And I loved what you said about practice makes, and then the kids like, perfect, right? But it's not, right?
It's not. It's practice makes pretty good. Yeah. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. And I tell kids and adults too, you don't have to be the best in the world. Just be the best you that you can be. Art is open to everyone. There's so much variety and style and technique and even skill level, but it's all art. Mm-hmm. As long as you're picking up that pencil or crayon and putting something to paper and creating something out of your imagination, you are an artist. And you don't have to be the best in the world. It has to just be a part of you that you're putting on that page. It has to be sincere. I think that's the biggest where, and then again, that's sort of a callback in a way to Schulz. Think of that pumpkin patch for the Great Pumpkin.
Yes.
It's about sincerity. It's like, how sincere is it? And I think that's a big key element of it. It's not about being perfect. It's about, I really love this. I really enjoy doing this, and it's something I want to share with the world.
Yeah, and I think that's where the practice comes in, right? The practice gives you that ability to not worry so much about, am I doing this craft right? It is, now I'm familiar enough with my tool. I'm familiar enough with my hand that sincerity can come through.
I had an art teacher once in high school who had assigned a project. I work at a very fast pace. I've noticed the fastest draw in the East. Yeah. I can draw quite quick. And I finished the project. It was supposed to take 2 weeks, and I'd finished it in one class. And in her frustration, I'll never forget, she looked at me and she goes, that's not correct. And I go, well, what's wrong with it? And she goes, well, art takes more time. I said, I don't think that's true. A quick doodle you do can be just as beautiful as a painting that's taken years to work on. Yeah. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. Right. So long as you're conveying whatever it is you want to convey, it's art. Yeah. But practice is the key to getting better, to getting more skilled, to really developing your skill. And anyone can learn to draw if they're willing to put in that little bit of time and practice. Yeah. That's how you develop the skill.
So let's talk about Cartoon Academy. This is your show. Tell me how it started.
It started for 2 reasons. Cartoon Academy is my show where I teach people how to draw cartoons. And that's always been a mission of mine, is when I was growing up, there were not a lot of schools that taught cartooning. Certainly not in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, there wasn't a single one. So I made it my mission to really, throughout my life, teach people how to draw and make it as accessible as possible. So I use things they already know, letters, lines, shapes, numbers, things that are very simple. Mm-hmm. And it's about learning how to see the world and put it on the page. Cartoon Academy came about because during COVID, the art classes were the first thing to get cut. People were home and couldn't, kids weren't drawing. Yeah. And so I started a YouTube channel that would teach how to draw cartoons. And it became very popular enough that I think it was the national newspapers had picked up like what to do with the kids, and like, you should teach them to draw. And around that same time that was really taking off, my daughter, who was, I believe, 14 at the time, said, Dad, I want to be a filmmaker. And I said, yeah, I know. You've been showing this, loved film, and you could see it in the way they watched films, of how they dissected. And my favorite moment was when they were about 6 years old, and we were watching Alfred Hitchcock's Suspicion, as Cary Grant was descending a staircase, and behind was this shadow that the window had cast that looked like a spider web. Mm. And right away they picked up on it. They said, Dad, it's a spider web. He feels trapped. And I go, you got it. You know this. You're going to be a filmmaker. And I knew then. Well, anyhow, they came to me and said, but I want to be a filmmaker and I want to learn how to do this, but I'm 14 years old. No one's going to hire a 14-year-old for an internship. And I said, well, we'll just get our own TV show. To which my daughter said, that is not how it works. And I go, I know that's not how it works, but this is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and things work differently in Pittsburgh. So let's just try. So I had sent an email to WQED in Pittsburgh, our TV station where Mr. Rogers was in fact filmed, and sent this email, said, hey, I have this idea for teaching kids to draw in this TV show. I get a call immediately from after that email saying, we were just about to contact you. Oh. We had got I think it was a Ready to Learn grant or a Learning in Pennsylvania grant to teach art at home. And your name came up and we would love to do this. And that's how it came about.
Wow, perfect timing.
One, to really support my daughter in filmmaking for her career and ambitions. And 2, just to get out there and be able to take art lessons into our homes.
You are a natural storyteller. You had captivated both the children and the adults that were in the theater here with us. So how does that translate to television?
Storytelling is a visual art form. That's one of the things I used to tour a lot on the storytelling circuit. And I would tell storytellers again and again and again, storytelling is a visual art form. And they would say, no, it's auditory. People are listening. I go, then they could just stay home and listen to you on the radio or on a cassette tape or CD. Cassette tape shows you how long I've been doing this. They come to see the storyteller. Right. They come to watch you perform. Every movement is part of the story. Every motion, every slight raise of the eyebrow is part of that story. So that's how it translates, I think, in television. I'm very cognizant of the fact that what I'm doing is for a very visual audience, that people are watching. And cartooning is, a storytelling art form. Cartooning is storytelling. Yeah. We're telling a story visually through pictures. We combine it with words and we create a comic strip. That's one of the great things about comics in particular, is that if you have a great drawing, that's called art. That's fine art. If you have great writing, that's called literature or poetry or whatever you want to call it. But when you combine the two of them, it's suddenly, that's just a comic book. Like, no, that's wonderful. That's a comic. That has combined the wonderful art forms of drawing and storytelling through literature, and you've combined them into this wonderful, concise, beautiful 4 little panels that tell us so much. So, and I try and keep that in mind in all my performances, that the two of these things go hand in hand, but they are all storytelling.
In the next segment of the 707, cartoonist Joe Wos explains how he came to work with another famous Charlie. This is KRCB.
KRCB is Sonoma County's NPR station, featuring the voices, sounds, and culture that make our home unique. From the heartwarming tales of postcards,
our grandmother was the founder of Juneteenth in Sonoma County,
to the Arts Briefs series shining a spotlight on the incredible youth in the arts scene.
Mariachi can express everything that you feel.
And farm tales.
We live in this beautiful area that allows all forms of success in agriculture.
Your stories, your station. KRCB 104.9, Sonoma County's NPR station.
Welcome back to the 707 on KRCB. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. I'm chatting with Joe Wos, the Emmy Award-winning host of Cartoon Academy on PBS, as we sit in a theater at the Charles M. Schulz Museum. And you have you're the ambassador or curator of Charlie the Tuna. Tell me about how did that happen?
My actual title is Brand Character Integrity Consultant.
Wow.
My job is to say a talking tuna fish wouldn't say that. So whenever, as advertising characters often do, they evolve, they change. My job is to say, let's remain focused and true to the character and who he is. And so that came about, though, and then I became also artist for Charlie, so the mural at the headquarters or some print material or whatever, I'll draw Charlie for Christmas cards, all sorts of things. Yeah. And that came about because Charlie was celebrating his 50th anniversary. Well, I was running a cartoon art museum in Pittsburgh called the Toonseum, which no longer exists, but I ran it for a decade. They were looking to celebrate Charlie's 50th anniversary, and everybody was like, you should host it at our museum, and all these big museums wanted to host Charlie's big 50th exhibit. And what I did was I went and traced the entire history of Charlie. I talked to artists who had worked on him, and I sent them that. I said, here is who this character is, and this is why it's important to celebrate him. And they loved that. And ever since, I've been working with Starkist.
Oh, that's
It's been wonderful. And I get to work with two Charlies who are very similar. Charlie Brown, when I think of Charlie Brown, I think of Charlie the Tuna, they are both very hopeful people. They constantly face rejection, and they never give up. That's probably one of the most important traits to have as a cartoonist, because you're going to face so much rejection in life. But so long as you keep going and keep at it, you'll get there.
Let's talk about the gatekeeping around artwork, because
Sure.
it can be really tough, and people think at a fairly early age, I'm no good at drawing, that's for other people. So how do you make it accessible to anyone who wants to draw?
Well, the first thing I do is I keep the tools very simple. I tell people on my show and in my live performances, something to draw on. Paper, cardboard, a computer, a pencil, a marker, a crayon, a stylus, a stick in the sand. You can draw it, that's all you need. Keep the tools accessible, number one. And then just saying, you can do this, you really can. It breaks down basic lines and shapes. If you can draw a line, not a straight line, a line, you can draw anything. The world around us is made up of basic shapes. It's learning how to see those shapes and put them on the page. You know, the room that we're in right now, squares, rectangles, and circles. Chairs we're sitting on are squares, the ceiling tiles are squares, the doors are rectangles, the lights are circles. But that's it. That's the only shapes in this room. If you could draw those shapes, you can draw this entire room. It is accessible. It's an art form that I think just about anyone can learn to do. It's getting past that block. You know, at age 12, so many people start to fall into the neat little categories as, I'm the kid who plays football, I'm the kid that likes movies, I'm the kid who writes poetry, and we sort of too narrowly focus. We forget that these art forms are meant for everyone. It's a form of communication. Drawing is no different than us speaking and listening to one another. But drawing is the most universal and most lasting form of communication. And it's very accessible to all. I can look at a cave painting from 10,000 years ago, I still know what it means. I can write the word cat or dog, and not everyone is going to be able to read that. Not everyone is going to know the language. Not everyone can read or write yet. But if I draw a cat or a dog, yeah, that's a cat, that's a dog. Right. So one of the things about Snoopy is recognized in more parts of the world than the Mona Lisa. So cartooning is an even more accessible art form for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved how you started to sort of characterize and break everything down here in the room. But that observation, is that key to drawing, is observing and noticing things?
Yes. You know, that was one of the things that Sparky knew, is that to be a cartoonist, you must be a keen observer, not just of your physical world, but of human nature, of all the things around us. And that is, 90% of art is observation. 90% of art is being able to see, learning how to see, and then learning how to break that down and reassemble on the page. Yeah. So it is very much about learning how to see.
All right. Would you mind drawing some things for me today?
No, I'd love to.
So you, while you're storytelling, you're drawing. So
yes.
Do you have like a 3-minute story that you could tell me and draw it for me?
Yeah, actually, why don't we do the one that I always like to do, which teaches the audience how to draw.
Yes, please.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Joe takes out a stack of copy paper and a permanent marker. As he gets ready to draw, I ask about how important it is to have his PBS show, Cartoon Academy, available on digital apps.
It's wonderful because of the kids who are on a road trip in the car. Yeah. You just bring up a cartooning lesson and they can sit and draw, and pens will go flying everywhere. But no, it's wonderful because if you're traveling, the kids can draw and have that screen set up. Yeah. It's really, again, it's about accessibility.
All right, so you said you have a short story that you
Yes, a short story I'm going to draw. And when I'm drawing, I use regular old copy paper and just permanent marker. The reason I use copy paper is because when you give kids those expensive, nice sketchbooks, do you know what they put in them? Only their very best work, because this was expensive and only my best stuff can go in here. Right. And consequently, they're intimidated and they don't draw. But if you tell them this costs about $7 for 500 sheets, draw to your heart's content, go crazy. Don't worry about making mistakes, just have fun and draw. So very accessible, but also just encourages you to just create as much as possible. That's great. So just regular paper. So all drawings are made up of basic lines, letters, and shapes. So we're going to use some letters: A, J, E, U, I, O, V, M, G, period, and a dash. I'm going to show you how to use those letters to spell rabbit.
What?
Well, see, most people are used to writing words. I'm going to show you how to draw a word. Okay. Once upon a tune, there was an animal. Animal begins with the letter A. This particular animal loved to jump. Jump begins with J. So
a rabbit wearing a bow tie emerges quickly on the paper as Joe uses each letter to construct the drawing. Finally, I asked Joe about why he comes back year after year to teach at the Schulz Museum.
It is, to me, almost sacred. It is. Charles M. Schulz is my hero. But to see that art on the walls, to feel that connection and the impact that he had on the world, those characters are each and every one of us. We're all a little bit Linus, or we all, I say that Charlie Brown is who we all are, and Snoopy is who we all wish we could be. Yeah, Charlie Brown just underappreciated, but doesn't give up, and then Snoopy just dancing through life, worrying about when's the next nap time and when's the next meal. And I think that's at the core of the characters, that heart. And so you see that and you feel that when you're here. They've brought in some of the world's greatest cartoonists to speak at this museum. People like Patrick McDonald, who does Mutts. Oh my goodness. Rob Armstrong, who does Jumpstart. Just really legends in the industry, and it's a chance to meet them as well. So it's more than just the art on the walls. It is an immersive experience where you connect with Peanuts and Schulz in just a way that's truly moving. I hope every day that there is someone in that audience who is going to be next, is going to pursue this. You know, I wrote Sparky a letter when I was about 12 years old.
Really?
And said, if you're ever thinking of retiring, I know how to draw Snoopy.
Oh, that's adorable, Joe.
So no one could ever replace him, but being here at the museum is full circle for me. It's fulfilling that lifelong dream.
Cartoon Academy is available on PBS Plus, and you can learn more about educational classes and camps at schulzmuseum.org. I'm your host and producer of this program, Michelle Marques. This show is a service of NorCal Public Media. Our president and CEO is Darren Lachelle.